Okay, so now it's November 9th, and it's actually raining. And so far, this what I put up there, nothing wet here, people. Now, mind you, it's not raining hard, but nothing is dripping in here. However, right up in there, you can see, and it's probably because of a hook or something. So I'm going to have to take out my staples, and I think there's a hook up in there. And once I take out the hook, then it will go flush, and hopefully the water will run that way. But I still have a little bit of this plastic, right? You can see there's some green one over there. So really, I could run another one just to kind of move it along to get it away from here. That's another day. And then, of course, it's raining. So what's going on in here? Well, I don't know. I mean, it pools in here anyway. Right, it is what it is. It's an old porch, right? But it's not gonna... Oh, I just got a big water drop in my eye, people. Oh. Yeah. Hold on. I got water in my eye. So much for outside. For I'm not coming out today. I'm not stressing myself out. You know, life is just a bag of stress. Some of this stuff is just not worth getting stressed over. I want to be nice and warm today, people. And I'm just playing catch up in the house right now. Okay, I'm not rushing with my day. I'm not, people. I don't want to think about, oh, I'm tired before I even start. Okay? It was too many days in the yard. However, that little thing that I did up on the porch, last time I checked, it seemed to be working, I'd say 95% good. There's that one corner down there where it's, right? So I'm going to, now that I found my tools, I'm going to get my pliers, just pry off what I stapled up at the very end where the post is, and then take out the hooks, make it flush, bring it on that angle, and hopefully it will just up and drip over the rail. And if it does that, I might be able to stop it from dripping where the post is, where it starts to leak and then drip into the garage, right? So it doesn't seem to be raining outside today. It might be drizzly and it might be a little cold, but it's not raining like it was yesterday. Well, not yet anyway, right? It's still early. It's like not even 7:30 in the morning or something like that, right? And by 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, it might be raining. But if it's not, I'm going to just do some minor repairs, or adjustments, I should say. And I might be good to go for the winter, people. I'm already feeling relieved. Like, I go out on my porch and I'm like, oh my God, it's been raining and everything's going to be wet and I have to bring it inside and it just starts to pile up and panic attack. And I've been going out on the porch and basically everything's been pretty much dry. So I'm really, really happy with that. Right? On Tuesday, Amari has an MRI. Now, this is not what the subject is about, because I'm going to talk about the message board that I just opened up. But before I do that, Amari has MRI on Tuesday. He has it on Tuesday. And my feelings on that, people, is I really don't want him to have it. I don't. The only reason I'm going with the flow on it, people, and honest to God truth, is because if I was to put my heels in and say no, I don't think it's a necessary test, because we all know Amari has cerebral palsy. We all know approximately what part of the brain has been injured because of the symptoms that he displays with his cerebral palsy, right? And because of that, I don't feel that we need another test to determine that part of the brain was injured, and that's why he is the way he is. Because we already know, people. Thing is, though, if I put my heels in and I say no, then whatever fight I opened up with the door there, it's going to be massive. It's going to be massive, people. Like, doctors will start accusing me of being negligent because I didn't do a recommended test. And then once it starts with the doctor, it trickles down into the social workers, right? And then it trickles down into whatever else it fucking trickles down into. Because everybody wants to know what's wrong with Amari, even though everybody knows what's wrong with Amari. Everybody knows what part of the brain approximately has been injured due to the simple fact of his symptoms. Because there's different forms of cerebral palsy where different parts of the brain get injured, right? And my thing, oh God, I am going to talk about this message board, but the thing is, I'm getting stressed out because he's got to go on Tuesday. And because the first time we did the MRI, right, it was botched, people. It was botched. It was botched with workers with a bad attitude, whether they did it with the intent to botch it, because in the back of my mind, I'm like, why did you botch it? Considering everything that you knew at the time of what was going on with the rumorville of Shimei through the hospital halls with, oh, here comes her mother, her daughter died from an overdose, killed herself, right? We won't talk about the fact that she was up in ICU, and lost her teeth. Okay, I'm making myself a coffee. Hold on, I'll be right back. Okay, so basically, before we go on to topic 2, which is the message board, I want to finish talking about Amari and this MRI situation and just the political ramifications around the fact that if I was to say, no, I don't want Amari to have an MRI for his head, right, and he's going to have to go under general anesthesia, which means they put him to sleep with an IV, because when he had the sedation, the sedative, they put it up his butt, right? But because he was constipated or something like that, it didn't fully absorb into his system. So by the time they got him into the actual MRI, right, within 15 minutes of having problems on their end, because their machine wasn't working correctly after 15 minutes of going in and out, slamming doors, all this other shit that they were doing with the bad attitude, right? He woke up that was after they fixed their machine. And then they were doing whatever they were doing. At first they were doing whatever they were doing. Then they were having problems going in and out. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And they're like, stand back. I'm just looking, well, you got a bad attitude. You swore. And I'm like, no, I didn't. What? So what? Like, I had to fucking leave, people. Well, I didn't leave. I just sat down and bit my tongue. That's what I did. But they purposely tried to piss me off, people. They did. Because, and then the doctor tried to gaslight me after the fact and convinced me to stay there and do it again. Now you have to remember, this is when they were trying to get his blood to see if it was chromosomes that was the problem with Amari versus brain damage, right? In terms of lack of oxygen, as a baby. They were poking him like 25 fucking times in each arm. I have videos talking about that shit. And, even Tisha had to tell him to go into here. They were doing it on purpose, just to agitate us. As they were walking around in the halls whispering about how Shimei was a drug addict because she killed herself or had an accident with fucking fentanyl. As Grandma, whisper, is accusing the dad. But we'll ignore that. And if Dad wants to come in and visit, right, we'll just let them visit, right? Just keep the rumor alive. Keep the fucking rumor alive, people. So, ended up getting another pediatrician. And, of course, this pediatrician wants that MRI because that's, standard best practices for their definition of good health care, right? So I'm obligated, people. I am obligated to do this because if I don't do it, even though I don't want to, I'm wondering if Amari's personality is going to change. I wonder if Amari's going to start having seizures or something dumb after the fact. I'm wondering what the side effects of it is going to be after the fact, because I don't believe that it's not going to have any type of side effect, which brings me back to the first MRI and what I was talking on before I clicked out. I was leading into, right? They wanted to do it again. And they put that doctor and the social worker and nurse, everybody tried to put a lot of pressure on me to put him through that process again without the guarantee that the second time it would work. Because I said to the doctor, well, what if it doesn't work again? This is just a hospital. Maybe Amari should be going to the children's hospital for this. Oh, no, you know how many doctors call me to help them get kids in faster? That's what he said to me, people. As if I owed him something, right? And I'm like, yeah, okay, well, we tried it once. It didn't work, right? Obviously those people that are running that machine have a bad attitude, right? They obviously are negligent with the fact that they didn't know what the fuck they were doing with their stupid machine, right? And now I'm right back to the beginning where, oh yes, so because they wanted to do it again, and you have to remember, he woke up screaming, people. He was in the dark, encased in a fucking machine that woke him up because it's so loud and it clangs that he was screaming that I could hear him through their metal doors, people. I heard him screaming from waking up from that bullshit, right? Before they turned off the machine. And then they tried to say he wasn't screaming, that I was hearing things. If that was the case, why did they turn off the machine? As they were picking a fight with me. And then they wanted me to do it again. So I'm like, okay, well, no, And I come home and I'm thinking about it, and this is the point of... And I'm like, they're doing brain tests on some of these people, or children, or whoever. This machine hasn't been around for that long. Just because they say it's safe doesn't mean that it actually is. And do we really know to what end and what purpose they're actually using this machine for, other than for maybe some research? Research? What? We need to find out what's wrong with you. But while we're finding out what's wrong with you, we're also going to study this over here, but we're just not going to tell you. And I'm thinking, okay, what was the purpose of putting Amari into a machine that scared the shit out of him, literally? Because that's what he did after he woke up. He just pooped and... Right? And you have to remember, he was sedated. That impacts the brain. That puts a charge into the brain. That alters the brain. Okay? Just like dysfunctional activities over a period of time permanently alters the brain because of the cortisol that is released under stress. Psh, 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 right? And then it changes permanently the brain structure. So I'm thinking, okay, they wanted to scare the shit out of him, literally, because they're trying to see where the deep something in the brain that retains and registers this shock that comes in from trauma. Whether it's children witnessing violence as they grow up in homes, whether it's an MRI scaring the shit and bringing the brain to that ping, in an instant, but yet in a sedated sense, right? Or whether it's through, being beat. You yourself physically are constantly being beat, right? Or whether you are constantly being gaslighted and psychologically tortured, right? For whatever reason and however they do it, right? Or how about in tortured where they drop the water one at a time and you're laying there and you can't move, right? And and then every month after doing that for a year, every month in that year, they're taking a brain scan on you to see what the fuck it's doing to your brain. Just like with Uncle John, right? take him, lock him up, isolate him, dope him up, brainwash him. God knows what else they shock therapy to him. God knows what else they did to him to alter his brain. So I couldn't allow that for Amari to happen in terms of, yeah, okay, you're going to scare the shit out of him 4 times in a row just to get one test right. And then tell me that I had to do that because that's best medicine. Without any explanation other than you're the doctor, you know what is right, and you've got all the resources on your side if I should fight. Right? He'd win in the medical field. He'd win with all the social workers siding on his side. He'd win with the cops coming in the door saying, don't breathe, right? He'd win with the court, with the judge saying, well, Miss Chorney, you should have followed the fucking pack. And since you didn't, right, you're the criminal. And if you really want to take it there, we'll remind you that Shimei did it to herself, even though we never did give you a fair trial when you filed the lawsuit. Because you had no choice, really, because there was no lawyer to help you. Kind of goes back into that targeting. So I'm sitting here and I'm like, I have to do it, people. I have to, because if I don't, I've got the whole fucking pack fucking fighting me, okay? And now, I'm not well. Something going on with my head, right? I don't think it's directly related to my eyes. It's something else. So if I'm willing to put Amari through an MRI, I don't want him going through it, people. I don't want his personality being damaged. I don't want him having deep brain psychoses or something, right? I don't want him fucking dying with anesthesia because there's that risk. And whatever they get me to sign, if I have to sign something, people, and I'm telling you right now, and I don't care who the fuck is watching. I already told my son, don't do that. You're just drawing attention to yourself. And I'm like, well, it is what it is. I'm going to sign my name under duress. Signed, Judy Chorney, under duress. I do not agree with this test. I do not. Because I think it's just a means to cover up what happened to Mari at birth, people. I am going back to the same hospital, okay, to the same halls that has injured my family on a perpetual basis, right, to talk to some brain doctor, right, to tell me what happened to my grandson, as if that doctor is completely at arm's length to the situation. He is not, people. So we'll see how much truth this doctor gives us, right? And I figure if Amari can be tortured, because to me it looks and feels and sounds and I just don't see the value in this procedure for Amari, because we already know what's wrong with him. We already know at what part of his brain has been injured based on the history and the different categories of cerebral palsy. Right? We already know how cerebral palsy can come about, but somewhere along the line through hospitals pumping out all these fucking C-sections under the emergency of this or the reason of that or whatever. I had 5 kids, people. I birthed all of them by natural vagina. Okay? My 3 daughters all had 1 child each. All 3 had a C-section. Now, how is that even possible? Unless, of course, the hospital is instigating that. And the one that was supposedly actually a real emergency, which was Shimei, they ignored the signs of something wrong with Amari when he came out and preferred to just kind of shift it off onto the mother. And now I'm going to go see the brain doctor that's going to confirm that Shimei was doing drugs without prenatal care and who's been running around actually as a Punjabi, but nobody just noticed. Right? Like, it goes deeper than just an MRI. So I figure I should go for one. Because I would be the candidate, right? We don't know what's wrong with me. It's something, but we don't know. So if there's any value in an MRI, it would be for a person like me. Because I have symptoms that are progressively getting worse over time for whatever reason, right? Without a fixed diagnosis. Whereas with Mari, we already know. It's been determined. It's been isolated into what region of the brain. It was documented at birth, even though it was ignored, right? And if they really want to investigate it, they would find out that she did have prenatal care, so maybe they should go talk to that doctor. Versus running around in the fucking halls making rumorville on Shimei, right? As they're sneaking in the father, right? And then withholding those files, people, when I put in a freedom of information. Now, whether he showed up or not when Amari was in for that MRI, I don't know. But the grandmother was there, right? She was there for a period of time. Because he was there for a couple of days. Because they did the tests in progression of 2 or 3 days. And the grandmother there was one evening she stayed. So now whether the father came in the middle of the night and took on his little looky-loos, I don't know. I wasn't there. All I know is they botched it, as they were running around spreading rumors. And then they tried to gaslight me to do it again, right? And now we've come full circle, and I really don't see the value in fucking with Amari's head because we ultimately don't know what these machines will do to individuals long term. Amari is a baby. Whatever they do to him now is going to be long term. If they do it to me through that machine, my life is half over already, people. Right? Any long-term damage that will come from that procedure, it won't affect me in another 10 or 15 years from now because chances are I probably won't even be around. Whereas Mari, his life expectancy is till age 45, right? So they do this at age 2. Whatever they're doing right to him right now has to follow him for 43 years? And then that just builds on more. Well, we need to find out what happened now. Well, why is he acting like this now? Why is he having seizures all of a sudden now? 2 years after the MRI. 2 months after the MRI. 2 days after the MRI. Why is he doing this? Right? Because we don't know. Don't believe everything they tell you, people. Just think of Shimei. Right? Seriously, just think of Shimei. It wouldn't be unreasonable for them to be scaring the shit out of kids like they did with Amari so that they could boom on the brain and then run them through the machine the second time, the third time, the fourth time, just to see how that part of the brain that receives that kind of information grows and changes. They need a consecutive repetitive, right, of pictures. January 1st. February 1st, March 1st, April, May, right, June 1st, July 1st, once a month, as they're twing, 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 to see after a 12-month period exactly how that brain has been affected in the deep parts of it. That's the kind of scientific studies that society has moved into, right? That's why they're bringing in artificial intelligence and all this shit. It won't be long before they'll be hooking up dead bodies like they did with Shimei with artificial intelligence. Where everything from the neck here down is dead and embalmed, while the rest of it up here is a fucking robot. Only you won't notice it. Because they're masters of disguise. They tell you one thing and they do another thing as they whisper in the halls and gossip about you. Right? So I'm figuring, okay, well now get on to the next subject here. I'm figuring I don't have a choice. we already know what would happen if I said no. And if I'm willing to put him through this fucking nightmare as far as I'm concerned, then next time I go to my doctor, I'm going to ask my doctor to do one for me. And we're going to see how long it takes for me, one, to get an MRI. And then two, after it's done, assuming that I survive, I'll come back and I'll tell you what I think of it. How about that? So that if you should ever find yourself in a position, seriously, man, where you're having to just put your child or niece or nephew or grandchild up on the fucking chopping block. This is slavery, people, when I can't say no. Okay? It is a form of slavery when I cannot say no without jeopardizing to lose my grandson. I'm saying no because I want to protect him. The people around me that want it say they want to know what's wrong with him and how it happened, even though they already fucking know. Okay? Because whatever information that this brain doctor is going to give me, it better well be damn good. For what it's worth in terms of risks and that long-term 45, 43 years of we don't know what those effects of that procedure that he's going in on Tuesday will be. Okay? It's not normal just to get up in the morning and go put your head in a fucking machine and have it sliced a millimeter at a time. Do you hear it getting louder and louder? And that's exactly how that machine works. It slivers at a time. It makes a bunch of booming and clanging and crashing. And then it puts together some kind of a 3D image where doctors can study it. And then come back and tell you something that in this case, we already know. And once we determine what we will really know, because I could be wrong, right? Then, because, they can distinguish between whether it was something in the brain through development in terms of having like a brain aneurysm, right? Right? Versus lack of oxygen. So really, we do have to wait to see what this doctor has to say. However, based on what happened to Shimei, based on what happened to Uncle John, I would still challenge it. It would just be by default, by instinct, by you fucked me over too many times. You fucked me literally over, right? You fucked over my stepdad. You fucked over my daughter. As far as I'm concerned, you fucked over my grandson, and you're still fucking him over. Anything that you do, you're only trying to do to protect yourself and your coworkers. That's it. And your so-called union reputation. And the only people who are concerned about that reputation is you guys, because the rest of the population are starting to wake up to the fact of what kind of scoundrels you people really are. Right? So I should be willing to put myself in that same danger. Being that I would be the person who would need it. Because they can't determine where it's coming from with me. Because it showed up in 2013 when they brought in the smart meters and changed over the internet to a higher Wi-Fi. And ever since then, it got worse. I walk around with a PSI of 50. The last time I went to the eye doctor, which was, a couple of years ago? Under those circumstances, normally people would have been in the hospital 1,000 times by now. But for whatever reason, I don't require that service. Doesn't mean I'm not suffering. Doesn't mean that this is not a way I want. I don't want to live my life like this till the end of my life, but it looks like I'm going to have to, people. It's pain related, right? It's something, and you just learn to cope and work around it. Give yourself time to adjust so that you have your strong points and you have your weak points, and then you die, right? Amari's got 43 years of misery in terms of being completely dependent on his service providers to provide him with just his basic needs as they're all running around trying to figure out what the fuck is wrong with him. Right? Even though they already know in a professional sense. As I'm being backed into the corner with defensive medicine. With defensive medicine. This is defensive medicine. This isn't medicine. It's not going to help Amari long term. It's not. It's not going to change Amari's predicament. What's going to change Amari's predicament, for example, if they really wanted to fucking help me, okay, instead of giving this brain doctor all this money and paying for all these tests, why don't they take a little fucking part of that money, just a fraction of it, and maybe help to subsidize me with the housing situation so that when I do have to leave this house, people, I can actually afford to live somewhere and provide an adequate space for Amari. That's not where they want those resources to go to. They want them to go to that brain doctor who is the friend of the brain doctor that did what they did to Shimei. There's more than one brain doctor in this fucking hospital. And you can't tell me they don't share lunch together, because they do. Okay? And just as they're sitting around eating their lunch, just being a normal human being, they like to gossip. They like to spread rumors. They like to jump on the fucking bandwagon, especially if they've got something to fucking lose. So they're conniving behind your back, even though you can't prove it. But common sense tell you, people are people. They're going to behave the way people behave, especially if they've got something to fucking hide. When I go see this brain doctor on fucking Tuesday, I should be coming in with a picture of Shimei and dropping it down on his fucking desk and say, before we start this conversation, let me remind you of what your hospital has done to my family. Let me remind you. But of course you have to be diplomatic, right? You can't talk about those things because it offends people. It puts them on guard. It distracts them from being a professional and doing their job. So we'll find out in a few weeks exactly what this test is going to produce in terms of results. And if it was really fucking worth it. And that's assuming that I get the truth, people. That's assuming that I get the truth. Okay? So, now we'll go on to the second subject here. Okay? The second subject is, I opened up a message board. Alright? Because there are people on, my channel that want to help me. And of course, there's different little areas where help is necessary and greatly needed and appreciated. Right? And because I do work on the foundation, people, it's just a part of my blood. I don't know. I have to keep that up on the I don't have to, but I do. I just do by default, right? So I opened up this message board because, one, I don't necessarily like Facebook. The Facebook comes in with just... They make it too easy for people that just want to cause trouble to cause trouble. That rumorville. They're not interested in letting people voice their opinions or just so that, I don't know. I just chose not. I have a little group there with, on Facebook, but it's not anything that I really nurture or pay attention to. And I don't like how Facebook... anyway, so I went and picked a free message board host service provider, okay? Now, in the past, 2014, whatever it was, back in the day, I actually started a message board and then linked it onto the website that was being hosted by the website. It was my service provider that was hosting the message board. The only problem was I was the only one that was the administrator. And because it was a more complicated message board, right? It required more techie stuff in order to keep the spam bots and the spider bots and all the spider bots, right? Bots, whatever. Those fake whatever they are, that just come in and randomly post stupid things and just to spam your board and try and shut down the server. That's what happens. They try and shut down the server. So over a period of a month or whatever, as this was going on, 10,000 posts were being posted on this message board from all these spam bots. And it was my server provider who was, I tried to delete as many as I could, right? And then he got involved and was deleting and trying to maintain. And then we just came down to the decision being that I did, and in those days I was on YouTube, people. I was making requests for certain YouTubers to maybe help me to take over that message board and they could manage it because maybe they knew how to manage an actual message board, right? And nobody wanted to help, and so it just kind of got to the point where he had to, either I was on it every day, right, and really understood what the hell I was doing. It was just better to shut the board down because that was the only way to control the problem. So that's what we did. And then he suggested that, maybe I should try it with a free, right, service provider. And because they take care of that, right? If they see a lot of spam bots coming in and boom, 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 they internally will investigate and put in the specific safety guards in order to protect the message board, right? So I just went through a list of them, and I just chose this one kind of randomly. It looks like it has a fair amount of features. The only thing that I don't know yet, and I would probably be not too happy about, is if we can't, and I don't think we can in this case, with this message board, it would be nice to be able to have categories, right? Because I came in, I did 65 posts. It came out to 66 because at first it was going, all I did was put the states with their flag. It looks kind of cool. I'm going to show you before I end this video, okay? Right? So Delaware with the Delaware flag. Idaho with the Idaho flag, and so on. By doing that yesterday, I recall, did you notice that? I recalled my states a little more quicker versus going to the ones I'm normally familiar with. Well, anyway, by the time I got to New York, I pushed I put New York, and then I put submit. So it posted without its flag. Now, I didn't like that because I wanted everything in the beginning to be uniform, right? So I deleted the post, and I reposted New York with its flag. So currently we're sitting at 66 posts with 66 views, right? Basically, well, more than that now, but how does that work? So let me pull it up. So I left it blank like that, right? So if you become a member to this message board, right, I think we're establishing some basic rules here. We'll leave it up for a while. We'll see how it goes. We'll see if people are even interested, right? At some point, I'm going to have to get moderators, or I'm hoping I can allow people to manage it if it should pick up, because we don't know, right? I mean, obviously, if it gets spammed by a bunch of fucking spam bots and trolls and idiots, well, then I'll just delete the whole thing, and that will be it. There won't be no message board, right? What do you call it? I don't think we can group on it. Right? Like, have categories. The state that I put in terms of a link is technically a category. Technically, it should go with legislations, those kind of things. More informational as to that particular state, right? Because we have to group it up into categories ourselves. But we also want to make it a free form where people can feel comfortable with expressing themselves, right? And we can form certain topics and in all how we determine those topics. You know, I guess, I don't know, things will automatically come to the surface on their own as more people are talking about a particular topic. But when it comes to what I did yesterday, right, I'll show you in a minute. I think if you catch this video, which I'm going to upload, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to link this video talking about MRIs in the beginning as if it relates to welcome, right, into the introduction of this message board. Okay? And I don't know how to do this. I don't even know if people will be interested in it. Okay. Here it is. So I figure I will provide a link to this. There, it's up there somewhere. Okay, I will provide a link to this. Let's talk about this for a minute. Okay, you see here statistics. 66 posts, 66 topics. The only reason we have 66 topics is because I had to do New York twice. And that's only because, sorry, wandering eye. And that's only because, here it is, do you see? I forgot to add its flag. Alright. So I deleted the post. I tried to repost it, but they wouldn't allow me to do it because I'd already named one New York. So if you notice this little thing right there, that's because that was the only way to repost it twice. So if we go into it, there you go. The first thing you see is the flag. Alright, that was important. I have to get something for there. I don't know. I don't got time to be cropping pictures and all that shit. So it's not like I'm trying to be whatever. And if you notice here, we have 65 posts. That's 50 states, 13 provinces, and two introduction posts. So we go to the very beginning. You can see they're all states. Okay. There we go. Welcome to Tapa Talk Groups by New Nations Unity. This is their standard introduction. I left as is. And then I guess I was required to put in a beginning. So I did that, and the only thing I did was add in little birdies. Now, that, because I could post an actual animation on my post, I like that. So that was one of the reasons why I chose this website. I thought people would enjoy having the flexibility to do that in their own posts, providing that they don't get obnoxious about it and it starts to look like a circus. But this is where you just have to let people be people. So, where to begin on the new frontier of building onto a revolution? Wow. Those are pretty strong words. So, why is that? Because, and this is where I go into default, people. Okay, this is where I go. Because I've been working on the nonprofit for so long, it's just a part of me to never forget about it. Right? So anything that I'm doing right now is just archiving. That's all it's doing. Okay? That's all it's doing. All right. See? British Columbia, Canada. One angel. And then, as more come on, we add the region, the territory. All right? And so on and so on and so on. Do you see? Okay? Do you see? All right. So, that's the beginning, people. Right? If we're going to work on helping me, to feed the birds in my yard, okay? Because somebody's already offered to help me to do that. Just with the last couple of videos. I mean, that's all fine and dandy. But on a grander scale, considering where I come from, it has to open up. Right? There is no point in helping me to feed the birds in my yard if we can't open it up for other people to feed the birds in their yards. So this is why I did this message board the way I did. The only thing is I don't know about all its amenities yet in terms of services. But the thing about service providers and stuff like that when it comes to web hosting and message boards, they know what they're doing. So if in the event that this message board was to really take off and become something of substance where people could navigate through it and not only get information pertaining to certain things within their territory or region, right? And that's why I broke it up into territory, into this different states and provinces, so that if it comes to anything that's I don't want to say legitimate, but legislated, right? Where it, whether it's on a municipal level, a district level, a state or a provincial level, anything like that, where it's like the black and white of society, where you have to navigate with your own envelope in order to be able to communicate and interact with that part of society, right? So, in Delaware, you could have a list of, how the courts, the main, what I'm saying is, if people are going to make a post onto this message board, come in with your best attitude. You don't have to have your best clothes on, right? You don't have to have the best house, the best of anything, other than maybe the best attitude in terms of you're providing. I'm doing these things too early in the morning, man. Yeah, it's like 8:30 in the morning. And I'm thinking Parliament buildings. Like, what the fuck? Like, who does that? So anyway, if you have a link and some pertinent information that relates to your state or province that you feel that you just want to share and document it, so that maybe if somebody else comes into contact with it, it might be just that little bit of information that they need to add to their envelope so that they can go deal with their own problems in their own state or in their own province. I would prefer to have it grouped better than what I'm starting out with, but you know, it's a free website. We can add in our little animations or whatever, because you can change the fonts. There's lots of things that you can do when posting on this message board, which brings in the ability for people to be themselves. So if you say want to rant on about something in particular, instead of going in and spamming another thread, right, by convoluting it, right, you can create your own thread and vent all you want. And if somebody wants to respond to you, they will. If they don't want to respond to you, well, then you're talking to yourself, but more than likely somebody's reading, so you should get some satisfaction with that, right? This is what I mean by come in with your best attitude. Don't come in to spam somebody else's thread or to spam the board itself, because you're angry and got displaced anger and you just want to whatever. But if you want to come in and post something that's pertinent to you, then yeah, you can have your post. And you can post on it 100 times and nobody's going to interrupt you. If somebody wants to communicate with you on those posts, that's between you and the next poster. But it doesn't give you the permission to go on to other posts to corrupt those posts so that the whole board gets shut down, because it just becomes too chaotic. Because right now, the way the board is, there is no real way to set up groups or subgroups to topics, right? So I am going to take this video after I upload it, and I'm just, as an experiment, I'm just going to add it into the very beginning. So when people want, they can go and see it, and then they can move on and decide from there what they want to do, right? And then I'm thinking I should pick a topic and just, like, what I want to do, this is kind of how I want to do it. You know, on YouTube, there's, you know, I follow certain YouTubers, right, that bring to the attention how children are being injured, being kidnapped, being murdered, disappearing, just stuff like that. Now, ideally, you'd want it under a group, a subgroup to the main, and that's where trust accounts come in if you were to break it up into a group. But in that case, whoever you're talking about, whatever child you're talking about, I'm just using this as an example to try and open up this board to get onto topics that are meaningful for people, that can bring you into the bigger loop with the 63 states and provinces that have legislated rules, acts, and legislation, mandates to compensate for the dysfunction that goes on in our society, right? I don't know what we're doing here, people. I don't fucking know. So anyway, I figure after I'm done posting this video onto this link, I'm just going to take somebody's video that's discussing a child, you know, that's been injured, and take the name, I suppose, or just take the title. Just take the title of the video, and then I'm just going to post the link to the video, right? And anything pertaining to that individual child from that point forward until the duration of no justice, no peace, until we get peace, until we get justice, that should be the remaining thread, the only thread that relates to that child. Whereas anything in the thread could be posted by anybody that's involved with this message board. Right? As long as it relates to the child, right? The topic in there can go with the flow. That's what I'm thinking. Whether it has yays or nays in there, I don't know. I don't know, people. I don't know what this message board is capable of yet, because one, I don't have a lot of time to sit there and know anything about message boards to begin with, and I'm definitely going to need moderators or somebody in there that's going to have to at some point manage it, and just whatever people do, right? But at this point, I'm just giving, I'm just trying to open up the board, and I'd like to see this is what I think is cool. I don't know what I'd like to see. Okay. So anyway, here we go. New Nations Unity Community Relations. Okay. New Nations Unity Community Relations. Proactive form for exploration, vocalization, socialization, and for the betterment of all communities through shared information. Okay. That roots back to people, the nonprofit. That's it. That's what it roots back to. Okay? See? Now, obviously, it needs to be updated. It hasn't been updated since 2007, because I just don't have time, right? Right? This is an MLA who's still an MLA in my area. Okay? She's still an MLA, people. She's still in Parliament. Her name is Sue Hamill, and she's NDP, New Democrat. Okay? And then, what I'm going to do, now doesn't that look cool? That looks cool, people. So, if you have any parliament, legislative, district, municipal, right, any kind of information like that you just want to post somewhere, keep it safe, right, make it accessible for other people to locate it, you're more than welcome to add those links with, a little quote with it or whatever it is. I think they're called snippets. Put in a snippet, right, and leave the link behind, so that when people come to this message board and they're like, Hawaii, what's in Hawaii? They're getting more of the legality part of Hawaii, okay? It's all kind of centralized, right? Okay. See? I like my little birdies. So anyway, I want to point one other thing out here. Look at all the colors. Do you see that? Watch these colors, people. If you notice colors on this, okay, and look at the colors of these flags. This is what I noticed yesterday when I was doing this. I never really noticed it before, and if I did, I just let it go in passing. But look at the colors. Look at that color. That's the only one that's green like money. That's the only one, people. Okay? So, we have a lot of updates to do. I don't know. If I had the money, I would pay somebody to do it, but I don't have the money for that, people. right? So, oh yeah, hold on. So, where are we? I haven't logged in. Obviously made it public. Right? You can see how it's coming in. You can see how it's coming in. Now you know why it says 66 posts. It's not that there are 66 posts. I just had to delete New York and bring it back in because I had to add in its flag. That was the only reason. Otherwise, it would be 65 posts. People looking at this probably saying, what is the point? What are you trying to say? Like, what are you trying to say here? What do you want me to say? What do you want me to say in Virginia? Like, what do you want me to say? What does this say, people? What does that say? Right? You obviously have to be a member in order to be able to, what do you call it? Post. Can you like it? No, you see, you have to log in. So, that takes care of that spam bot problem. Right? That's where the website service provider actually monitors that stuff. Then we have a gallery. I don't know what that means. Right? We have, I'm not sure how this works. Notifications, discussions. Okay, so before I end, I just wanted to point this out here. This one here, support New Nations Unity Community Relation by making a donation. Okay? Well, how it works for this particular message board is when people post something, I don't know. Anyway, you gather up points. And when you get X amount of points, you get $1 in cash back. And then you can use that $1 in cash back to either start tweaking the ads on the website to pay for the ads so that either you're the administrator or the moderator and you don't have to sift through the ads, you just get on with your work. Or you start removing them from the actual users on the website or visitors that come to the website. I don't know if you have to sign on and become a member to the group or if you just have to sign on and become a member to the actual service provider. I'm not sure how that works. But you can either, you have a choice of two things. You can either start removing ads and tweaking them and hiding them and doing and paying for them yourself, or you can cash in that money and take the money yourself and do what you want with it. Now, being that obviously this is being set up around the foundation, I'm not touching any money. If any money accumulates, it can just sit there. Okay, I'm not trying to remove ads. I'm not trying to add ads. I'm not trying to make money. And if we do make money, then we've got something to fight about, basically, because it would turn into a fight. The more money that we make, the bigger the fight. That's what will happen. So before that happens, we'll just let the money accumulate, and we'll see who becomes active participants on this board, assuming that anybody does that, because there is no pressure, right? Especially when you don't know what you're doing in terms of what are you trying to say when you put up my state with a flag? What does that mean? What does that mean to me? Well, from my perspective, the one that put it up there, what it means for you, if you wanted to ask me and I'd tell you, I'd be like, you see that flag? Well, that flag right there, people, can go right along with these hats. Simply has to be right there. You can just have that flag right there with that logo, and those hats could be sold in your state, and the money generated from those hats being sold in your state stays in your state, right? For the kids and the families and the birds. It's just another means to make money. We just need to find somebody to manage it for us. That's all. Right? So if it ever came to that point, where I actually had somebody in Delaware wanting to take on the initiative to help me with hats, we'll say for example, then that information would go into Delaware's main topic. Because by that time it would be legitimate, right? Whereas the legislations that affect Delaware should stay in Delaware. But if you want to talk about, for example, I'm not rushing with my day, people. I'm already tired and got this zzz going on in my head. But I kind of got my day planned out. I know what I want to do. I want to do some laundry and find a place for my tools. And I don't think it's raining, and I just want to fix that one little corner on the roof. I'm looking for something here. Now, there's only so much time, right? But there's so many little girls and boys right now that are either going missing, being kidnapped, and then murdered. Just too many stories, right? Yeah, I'm not even reading this. Anyway, we can make extra topics as we go. Whatever topic, if it's your topic, then just stay on the topic and let people come to the topic on their own terms, right? And if it's your topic, you nurture it. Like, okay, I want to be specific about a name, okay? Because I'm trying to group, here we go. I'm trying to group the message board without it having the tools to group it. But just by default, with if people are interested in talking about that topic, it will come to the surface. Because that's what the internal staff does. They run the board in that way, right? So even if Delaware ended up way at the bottom of the pile, but it had information in there, and it was just like a sleeper cell, I guess you could say, with that hardcore information in there, right? Then when somebody wants to add on to that particular topic, it's just a matter of going down into what do you call it? Into the topics to locate the one post and bring it back up to the surface with either new information. And I think if you're a member, I think you can even save some of your main topics for yourself so that you've always got it handy. You don't have to go through 80 posts to find the one topic, because it should be already listed within your favorite topics, even though it's not showing as soon as you open up the board. We don't know these things until we try them out, right? So we don't know what this message board is capable of yet. And anything that I do, people, is just an archive. Okay, I'm archiving, all right? I am, just archiving the beginning of it. So anyway, new information on Camille McKinney, a.k.a. Cupcake Case. What's really going on? Okay, and this is done by SP News Nugget. Okay, I've had a conversation with this woman a few times. So, anyway, I think I'm going to just copy and I'm going to try this. Okay? What I should do... wandering eye. When I get onto the message board... I don't know. This is where I need help. Okay? Do I just copy and paste this part and post it as a main topic so her name is up here, and then being that it's the first post, add in the link with the full title. I'm not sure how it's going to post on there. I would assume that it will just come up with the title and the link. And then just leave it as is and see if anyone wants to comment on it. And then if anyone wants to comment on it and add in another link that's related to that little girl, then it's upon them to do that within their own post. Right? And then as things of importance, right? I would say children are very important. Then, we add more names for their own as we go along. But if you're doing something and you see a statistic that relates to your state that, you want to just put somewhere as a reference or for others to see, that's when you would go into the state main threads. And that thread, as it progresses and builds up, if there's anything of importance in there that we want to talk about, we can always take that particular subject out, start a new thread, and then just add a link to the original. I think that's how we're going to have to navigate through this message board, which, in my opinion, is much more flexible than Facebook, okay? I'm looking for flexibility here. Plus, we can make money and fight over it, people, okay? I mean, right there, that's an advantage to our side because it gets us talking. And the more money we make, the more intense the argument and the debate becomes, right? And then we'll come together and we'll figure out what's the best way of dealing with that money, because I don't claim that money for myself. Yes, I can just hoard it all and keep it in British Columbia, Canada, and say, this is the original, it has to stay in, but it might come a day where I might have to butt heads with somebody and say, look, this is something that was started between two countries, not just one. And therefore, because I'm bound by certain rules and regulations through the federal government of Canada and the United States of America, technically I can't collect money from Americans to spend it over here. However, if somebody wants to make a donation, the federal government really can't tell you that you can't. Right? That's why we license out the trademark, because what it does is it provides the person, the licensee, the ability to fundraise on the behalf of the foundation, but for their area in a legitimate sense. And then this way, the federal government can't say shit about it. They can't question our motives, right? That's basically what it boils down to. What is the motive of me signing on with this particular message board? Did I sign on for the simple fact of that, I can collect money? Just, right? What you going to say? And I think they even log it for you. I think they even make it public, where the public themselves, at your discretion as administrator, where people can see it start to accumulate, right? They can see it. So I'm going to make $1,000 and say, c'est la vie. I'm done, right? I'm just using that as an example. No, that $1,000, if I have more American supporters on this message board than I do Canadian, which at some point will probably be like that, people, because we're sleeping out here. So many of us are sleeping out. There's not enough of us out here to accomplish anything. Unless you're a minority group that has political clout. You have to be a minority group with political clout to get anywhere in BC. And even then, that political minority is still held hostage to the public union sector, okay? Because ultimately, it is the public union sector that runs the province. But if I've got mainly American supporters supporting this message board, and through the message board itself, there seems to be money coming from somewhere, or at least that's what I'm being told, I'm not going to rob the people to pay Paul. Right? We're going to have a discussion as to how we can distribute out that money from that pot, which, let's make a mental note, which we could, when there's enough of them, enough money in there, we could start our own little manufacturing company, people. We could. Why not? Why not? We got money now. That's just what we might need to get those hats out there to start making money. And then once we start making money, and we've already got it documented that there's 50 states and 63 provinces, 50 states and 13 provinces on board, right? We're starting to feed a lot of birds. Okay, because we're not going to forget about the birds. We're going to take care of the people, but we're also going to take care of the birds. So that's how I'm going to approach this message board after I get off at some point. I don't know if I'm going to do it right away, but at some point today, I am going to take this particular post from SP News Channel, and I'm going to start with the name, aka Cupcake. I'm going to put her link to her video in there, with or without a comment. I don't necessarily have to comment. I just have to open up the discussion, right? And if other people want to comment, they can. If other people want to add in other links to other comments or news articles or videos that pertain to this particular little girl, right? So that we can follow it under the one thread, right? To the very bitter end in terms of justice for the little girl. As we bring in financial revenue to build in a manufacturing company to start really making some money, right? This message board has the potential to do that. We just have to learn how to navigate around it, right? And be risk takers. If it gets funky to the point where I can't control it because I have nobody helping me to control it and it's just going nuts, like the last time I tried to do this, then I'd have to shut it down. Wouldn't mean that I wouldn't start all over again. It would just mean I'd have to shut it down. But before that happens, we haven't even started. So if you notice, where are you going to go? Do you see? Right there. That doesn't work. Okay? Because of spam bots. So if you click it, it's just going to go to a not found. But that doesn't mean, people, that at some point we can't update those pages and add in the link for the message board that we have now. All right? Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay? So we already have a home for this message board. Right? We just have to build the foundation around it. That's all.